Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. Bobi Wine is back, so where now for Ugandan politics? Plain and simple, Mexico's new leader says he'll give up his presidential jet. We hear from the little girl who stole Drake's heart and got herself a new one. And Animals Doing Stuff brings you the real-life Paw Patrol. Now, top of our newsfeed, Bobi Wine, the Ugandan singer turned politician turned national icon, has returned to his home country to a hero's welcome. This was outside his home in Kampala. Thousands of his supporters showed up to celebrate his homecoming. Now, he's been in the US for medical treatment after he was arrested about a month ago and allegedly tortured by the Ugandan police.
My desire for liberty is as burning as the desire of the millions and millions of people in Uganda to be free.
But before this happened, there were reports that Wine had been rearrested. Now, that news spread like wildfire on social media. Ugandan police were on the streets ready for protests and clashes. They didn't actually materialise. But Wine later tweeted that police had escorted his car from the airport, even though he hadn't asked them to. Perhaps that is what led to the confusion. Now, what is clear is that whenever Bobi Wine has dealings with the police, rumours start quickly. Thankfully, this time around, there were no violent protests. Now, the president has previously laid some of the blame on the media for stirring up rumours. As you can see from this tweet from yesterday from a journalist called Munuji Raymond, he may be right. It says, breaking, Bobi Wine has been arrested and detained at the CAA holding facility. His brother Dax confirms. Now, what happens next here is hard to see. Uganda's President Yoweri Musaveni has been in power for 30 years and shows no signs he's willing to relinquish his control. But Bobi Wine and his supporters, mainly the young, are going nowhere and will continue to use social media to raise their cause. This is one story the world will be watching closely. Let's have a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. And pretty boring Brexit talks got a lull when Donald Tusk put this on his Instagram. He wrote, "Piece of cake, perhaps? No cherries, though," in reference to the fact that the Brits think they can cherry-pick what they want from the EU and leave behind the bits they don't. And this is a man who's been charged with child endangerment, theft, and trespassing after he let his daughter climb inside a vending machine in a mall in the United States. There he is. And surprisingly, the man is actually a teacher. And this is outside the Apple store in London. People have been queuing, as they always do, every year to try and get their hands on the new iPhone. And now Huawei, the rival manufacturer of phones, have brought some lulls to proceedings. They've been handing out power packs to people who've been queuing up, because as we all know, Apple iPhones have terrible batteries. Now, this next story brings the huge wealth divide in India into sharp relief. It's about a man who worked as a manual scavenger and how his death pricked the conscience of many. And sticking with divided societies, a film about obnoxiously wealthy people in Singapore and Hong Kong came out a while ago. Now, it was popular with some. Patrick Falk looks now at the reality of life in both the cities.
I hardly know anything about them. Every time I bring them up, it changes the subject.
It's the story of an Asian American girl meeting her Asian boyfriend's super rich family.
Nick, we can't afford this. So
She wasn't the only one overwhelmed by the privilege displayed in John Woo's portrayal of Asia's moneyed elite. Since hitting the big screen, there's been much talk about Crazy Rich Asians' failure to show the less affluent side of where the movie's set.
There is this focus on ostentatious wealth. It's unfortunately a bit of a stereotype that Singapore has, and what happens there is that it helps reinforce the marginalization.
Ian Chong is a political scientist who covers social divisions. He says depicting only the wealthy portion of Asian society can be detrimental to people's understanding of reality.
Especially if it becomes then an excuse to say, well, you know, we are not seeing these visible areas of poverty, we're not thinking about them, we don't have to do anything about them.
Singapore is one of the richest countries per capita in the world. There are no official statistics on how wealth is distributed there, but one study by Credit Suisse shows a fifth of the population owns only 1% of the overall wealth. Many struggle to make ends meet. But it's here in Hong Kong, another super wealthy city featured in Crazy Rich Asians, where the wealth gap is particularly worrying. Despite adding more billionaires than any other city in the world last year, official data showed 1 in every 5 people live below the poverty line. One of the most visible signs of income disparity in Hong Kong is its so-called cardboard grannies. Mrs. Tam is one of them. She's 82 years old but has no money to retire. Every morning she comes here to collect cardboard to take to a recycler. She makes around $3 a day doing this back-breaking work, and life has never been easy for her.
When we were growing up, we had nothing to eat.
Mrs. Tan receives an old age allowance from the government of about $300 a month, but most of that goes towards paying the rent for a small room in this building. She has to walk up 5 flights to get to it.
Even if you worry, there's nothing you can do about it, but it does hurt my knees.
A lot of poor people will say this is a rich man's heaven, a poor man's hell, because income disparity is very serious.
Official statistics show Hong Kong's wealth gap is at a historic high. The richest households earn around 44 times what the city's poorest families get by on. And as living costs continue to rise, there's little those caught in the poverty trap can do to improve their situation.
A lot of them work hard their whole lives, but they never have a warm bed or a good meal to eat, because they are always working and have to suffer.
And many critics say there's little being done to help them share in the growing wealth of Asia's booming economies.
New figures from Save the Children show the devastation the civil war in Yemen is having on the country's young. Disease is rife, there's little food, and people live with the constant threat of airstrikes and artillery. Right, around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Friday. And Marion Suge Knight has entered a plea of no contest to a manslaughter charge. Suge Knight became famous in the 90s as the founder of Death Row Records, which brought West Coast gangster rap to the world. Air Force One, Mexico's incoming president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, was stuck on board a commercial airliner for 3 hours, but says he plans to give up his private jet that he is entitled to when he assumes office. Obrador is a socialist and says that using the jet would not be what the people want him to do. The new jet was a 787 Dreamliner and was only given to Mexico 2 years ago.
I am not going to change my mind because of this. I won't get on the presidential plane. I would be so embarrassed, my face would fall from the shame of boarding a luxurious plane in a country where there is so much poverty. Power is humility, And power only makes sense, and it converts into a virtue when it's used to serve others. So enough with this tomfoolery. It's over. It's over. Any politician who acts arrogantly won't last.
These are protesters in Guatemala. They're calling for President Jimmy Morales to resign. Now, Morales recently announced he'd end a commission that was looking into corruption in the country. That commission had previously brought down his predecessor. The protesters say that by ending the commission, Mr. Morales is putting himself above the law. Now, Amazon have launched loads of new toys for the home, and they're all designed with Alexa at their core. So are people ready for the virtual assistant to be everywhere? Amazon already wants Alexa to be part of the family. Now it wants her to take over your home.
It's been a little over 4 years since we launched Alexa. And we've told you that she would get smarter over time, and she has. In the past year alone, she's learned tens of thousands of new things.
Amazon has launched 15 new products.
It's that simple.
That means Alexa will soon be available in speakers, clocks, car things, security cameras, microwaves. Amazon wants Alexa to be parts of everything, and this virtual tech is already having an impact in the real world. Earlier this year, police in the US state of Arkansas attempted to use information collected from a man's Amazon Echo as evidence in a murder case against him. So, would you want Amazon to know everything you did at home? And a heartwarming update. Sophia Sanchez is an 11-year-old who needed a new heart. And while she was waiting for one, a famous rapper stopped by and on request. And now, Sophia and her new heart are doing great.
You asked me to come up here.
He said to stay strong and keep fighting and you will get through this, and it helped a lot. And everyone, when they say that, because I had some tough times.
So you asked him to. You asked him to.
Yeah, I might have.
I was thinking about it a lot, and I kept asking the doctors right when they came in, is my heart here? And they said, no, not yet. But that day when they came out, I didn't say anything, and my heart came.
So one of the questions that we've actually gotten a lot was whether Drake coming here influenced her getting her heart sooner, and the answer to that is that it was totally coincidental.
So it's great to have her back. It was really hard to see her sit in her room, lay in her bed, not be able to do anything. It was terrible seeing her like that.
And look who came to surprise me.
Just for you, my dear.
Drake. It feels better. Like, it feels different, but like in a good way. Like, it feels like a regular heart.
Well, time for some animals doing stuff, and I found this great video of a gulper eel.
Oh, wow.
Looks like a Muppet.
Yep, he's doing the shake.
Now, this rare bit of footage shows the eel opening its jaws really wide as part of its defense mechanism. The behavior is not often caught on camera, and the scientists that got it were very impressed indeed, as you'll hear.
What?
Are those like the gill arches? The gill.
And now for the real animals doing stuff, as my producer Denise thinks the previous one was boring. This puppy patrol happened in Chile this week. The little dogs will eventually join the K9 unit, and it's their first experience of a police parade. Now, some of the vets were on show to show how it should be done, and we will never tire of showing these little guys and their little shoes. And that's all for the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Follow, subscribe, and add. See you again soon.